If you were born neurotypical, you take it for granted that each person is a discrete entity. Separated into squares on Zoom, it isn't hard to see that you in your house are distinct from me, and that while an embrace makes us feel temporarily united, it is a fleeting moment of connection. And anyway, embracing is frowned upon these days, replaced by an awkward elbow bump that feels more like taste testing than a full meal deal. This year's newborns have never had their cheeks tweaked by a neighbor. And grandma is a word used to describe a talking head on Facebook and FaceTime. If I wear a mask, you don't even have to breathe the molecules that once swirled in my lungs. You are you over there, and I am by myself. That is what the neurotypical mind understands. For our nativity scene artist, Karina Garcia, this concept of aloneness, separation, distinction between selves is nearly impossible to grasp. She is a mirror touch synesthete, a mirror touch synesthete. High in empathy, her brain sees all of life as interconnected. She feels your suffering and your joy. The doctors call it a problem. She calls it a gift. As a child growing up in Mexico, she could connect with the stars, communicate with the divine, and be at one with all beings present and gone. She knew her culture and Catholic school did not approve of such mystical musings, so she kept them to herself. She waited. She dreamed of a time where she could tell the people a story of hope, a story that she could share with the world of the truth of our interconnectedness. She saw unlimited possibility in compassion and its power to liberate us if only we would surrender our addiction to false dichotomies like us and them. Only her childhood friend, Christian, seemed to understand the depths of connection that was possible between souls. When she was just 12 and he was 13, they declared themselves soulmates and made a promise to be together. When Karina was 14, a friend of a friend assaulted her. She became pregnant and was forced by her parents to marry her abuser. Though she knew this was all wrong, she was a Catholic girl in a patriarchal world, so she lived with a man she was afraid of for 10 years, believing it was her cross to bear. The deeper calling, the one she felt from God, the calling to share with the people this mighty revelation of oneness and unity lay buried underneath the layers of patriarchy and colonialism that separates us all into categories of best, better, good, and garbage. She was an unwed pregnant teen. Who was she to dream of God's purpose in her life? Hold fast to dreams, the poet says. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. When COVID-19 hit, Sarah Doucette said, I stopped dreaming. Well, because we all went into survival mode. It's been a year of nightmares more than dreams for so many. An apocalyptic year that began with the January sun being darkened by the Australian wildflowers. By June, climate change and white supremacy were burning through the cities of the northwestern United States. By early fall, We could see the fault lines cracked open by the virus, and some of us were starting to fall in. Those on the edge, the poor, the racialized, the ones whose governments use them as political pawns. And as December crests the horizon, the rest of us are clinging to what we cherish most. As the seismic shifts take place all around us, who are we to dream? We're busy surviving. And yet, even now in the dark soil, seeds are planted and will take root. From the dark womb, new life is beginning that will come to birth. It is in the darkness that the sweetest dreams are born. After living 10 years with domestic violence, Karina began to sense a stirring in her that would not abate. A fierce, brave, new dream had been born, and God was telling her that she had to move on. When she tried to leave with her children, her husband, involved with the Mexican mafia, had corrupt policemen arrest her. He kept the children. For 5 years, she was alone on the run from him in Mexico until she met a self-organizing group of women, and they taught her the law, and they gave her the tools to separate from him, and the courage to flee she found within herself, and the dream of a new life in Canada came from God. And when I met Karina to commission her to create the nativity scene for Windermere, she gave me her story and the permission to share it. Our natural state is love and benevolence, Karina said. The world, it is never divided. Everything is connected, she said. I feel the suffering of leaving my children behind, but I also feel the suffering of the people who abused me. And all of this suffering, it is like unnecessary layers that hide our true identity in God. There have been so many lamentable dreams lost this year. The trips we long to take, the anniversaries we were not able to mark, the identities we once held so dear, layers of suffering in need of redemption that we hope will come. And as we wait through this apocalyptic Advent, we are in need of Karina with the eyes of the synesthete who tells us that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Ready to use her own story as a tool for transformation, she gently exposes the myth of our own creation. We were not made for suffering. We were made from and for love. That's why Karina prefers to work with everyday objects and recycled materials in her art. God never throws anything away. The incarnate God exists in the very people we deem worthless. A young, unwed mother, a helpless infant born into the poverty of a stable. In us, when we find the courage to say yes to the fierce, brave, new dream that is stirring within. Oh, did I tell you that Karina's childhood friend, Christian, moved to Canada to be with her a few years ago? I guess some dreams never die. My friends, it's Advent, and God's dream for us never dies. And those who dream with God change everything. Amen.